Everyone, it's Vanessa. Today I'm going to be talking about something I've never talked about before really on this channel, and I just wanted to make a whole video dedicated to my sorority experience because, you know, sorority recruitment is coming up for a lot of college students. I think I learned a lot from the short time that I was in a sorority. I'm going to be talking about my recruitment experience because I can honestly say my recruitment experience is like nothing you've ever heard before because it's just kind of insane and so ridiculous, and evidently why I ended up dropping out of my sorority. And I just want to preface that why I dropped doesn't have anything to do with my sorority at my particular school, which is ISU, Illinois State University, or any of the girls in the sorority. It has nothing to do with that. I just wanted to share my story because I learned a lot from it. We're just gonna get started with the beginning, which was recruitment. I can confidently say that I don't think anyone has ever experienced what I experienced during recruitment. It's just insane. So let's just get into it. This is gonna be a long video, so I'm sorry. I initially wanted to join a sorority because I have always gotten along with girls my whole life. I've just had a lot of girlfriends. To this day I have like this big group of girls that I've been friends with my entire life practically. I really want to join something that is going to, you know, immerse me into making friends. And also I've always just, you know, growing up, I've always seen like girls in sororities and like that image of like they're always having fun and, you know, all these fun activities they got to do, and it's just something that I really wanted to try out. You know, I'm going to college, I want the full kind of experience of being in a sorority. In my eyes, I thought, you know, being in a sorority just completes the college experience, and it's something that I really like being involved, and I just really like, you know, going to fancy events and stuff like that. So I thought this was perfect for me. The obvious underlying factor that was really keeping my decision on the fence to join was the money aspect, because it is a real big financial burden, and knowing that I was the only one that was going to be responsible to pay for it, I was just really questioning what I should do. I just decided to go for it and see what happens, and if you know, if anything, worst case scenario, I could always drop out of it. I remember like signing up, it was like a $65 fee to join because that covers like the transportation and everything during the recruitment weeks. So let's just get started with the recruitment process. At my school, it was a two-week process, but I did not make it those 2 weeks. No, I did not. First 2 days were welcome rounds, and we were all sectioned into different groups with different girls. Different groups would go to each of the houses. There was 12 houses that we all had to visit. That's what welcome rounds consisted of, us just going to the different houses, having conversations to get to know the houses pretty much and get to know the different sorority on campus. Formal recruitment is, the 2 days I was in it was just exhausting. Like, not exhausting, it's honestly nothing that like I don't think anyone can't handle, but it is a lot. Like, it's just a lot of talking. So if you don't like talking, don't rush, because it is just a lot of talking. Luckily I like talking, so that wasn't a problem for me. Welcome rounds start, and I'm obviously in a group, and my group, we only visited 3 houses on the first day. I don't know why, it just kind of happened like that. It's just the way they kind of categorized it, or the way that it was decided. I don't know, it's just like randomly organized. First day was just so much downtime. It was, since we only visited 3 houses a day, we were literally just waiting for like maybe, I want to say like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then that's when we finally visited the 3 houses. So the first day was just kind of like a lot of downtime and pretty boring. When you go to the houses, you give them a pink slip to kind of just to like mark as your name, so they know that, like, so they could, I guess, distinct which sorority member was talking to a potential new member. Is that what they call them? A potential new member? Whenever we would talk to a girl from a sorority, we would just give them a pink slip with our name on it. And the way we traveled to each of the houses was on a bus, and on the bus they would do roll call just to check attendance. And sometimes they would not say my name, like, oh, do we miss anyone? I'd be like, me. But those kind of little things didn't really throw me off at first. So welcome round day 2 comes along, and since my group only visited 3 houses on day 1, we had to visit 9 houses on day 2, and that was just like back to back to back to back to back to back. And I was so tired. I feel like at the end of it, I was talking so much. You just have to trust the process, as they say. And I'll tell you what happened later when I trusted the process. I like talking to girls and I had a good time. I feel like I left some houses having like being really excited because I had good conversations, and I thought, you know, oh, this could maybe I think they would like me, and you know, that whole kind of situation. Finished welcome round day 2, and at the end of welcome round day 2, you're supposed to kind of vote and categorize from greatest to least of the houses that you prefer, like in preference. So there was an app that we were all supposed to do this on, and I remember trying to get onto the app. It wasn't working. It like said I was logged out or something. I told the guest leader of our group, and she was like, oh, that's no big deal, you just do it on the computer. And I did it on the computer and I voted, and it was no problem. I went back to my dorm and it was fine. I think I got Subway that night. I was super tired and I went to sleep. The next day was philanthropy round. And philanthropy round, you find out which houses invited you back. I'm pretty sure you get like 6 houses that invite you back, or 9, I don't remember. And then you visit their house and they tell you all about their philanthropy, and I was really excited for that because philanthropy was another big reason why I wanted to be in a sorority, to get involved in volunteering and stuff like that. Third day outfit was like my favorite outfit that I wore. I was planning on doing a whole video dedicated to the outfits I wore during recruitment and like outfits to wear during rush, but obviously that video did not make it to public because I couldn't finish it. So philanthropy round, again, I go to the area where we all meet up, and I'm pretty excited. I got a pumpkin iced coffee from Starbucks that morning. I was pretty pumped. Again, it was my favorite outfit. I was excited to see what houses invited me back. I sit down at the table, and my leader, the leader of our group who was in charge, she was like not making eye contact with me. And honestly, I didn't think anything of it at the time, but looking back now, like I can see all these red flags, I guess. She still passes out these pink slips, again, the things that we're supposed to write our names on, that we're supposed to give a sorority member that we're supposed to be talking to that day. So I'm just filling out my names, and then this girl walks over to me from behind and she's like, are you Vanessa? Can I speak with you outside? Obviously I don't know what's going on. I'm just like so confused at this point. I'm thinking like, oh my god, did I do something wrong? This is kind of where it all goes down. But she brings me outside and we're talking in private, and the first thing she says to me is, take a deep breath, everything's gonna be okay. So at this point I'm just like, what is happening? Well, I take a deep breath and she tells me, just to be honest with you, this like whole thing was very confusing to me in the moment, and it's still kind of crazy how this all happened because I just didn't understand it at the time. I hardly understand it now, but she was telling me, so there's a glitch in our system and all of your information, all of your like proof that you were at the houses is not there. All the houses, all the sorority houses, the 12 houses that you talked to, they think you didn't show up. Whatever program they used, it was marked as if I were absent, even though during welcome rounds, every time they took attendance, I was there. Some information was not dealt with correctly, and someone gave them a attendance sheet that said that I did not show up during welcome rounds at all. I guess like I don't even understand how that could happen. I really don't get it. But they pretty much said that oh, this is just a glitch on our fault, like this has nothing to do with you, we're so sorry, but since none of the houses think you were there, you were not invited back to any of the 12 houses, and there's nothing they can do about it. Oh, and I'm just like, what? Like, I'm just like, how did this happen? Like, I'm so confused. How, you know, like how does this happen? So I'm just sitting there in kind of disbelief, and I'm feeling so bad for this poor girl that has to deliver this news to me, because it's honestly the worst news I feel like you'd have to give someone in this situation. It's like, so what are my options? You know, what do I do now? And she's like, well, you could wait for next year to rush, or there was a new kind of sorority that wasn't on campus yet, that this is their first year joining, and you could wait for their process. And so I was like, okay, just kind of upset because, you know, I spent 2 days talking to all of these different houses and feeling really good about the conversations that I had, and to know that those houses think that I wasn't even there and like all of that was for nothing was just very frustrating and honestly not fair. But she kind of just kept consoling me and like hugging me, because I started crying because I was just kind of like in shock. I was like, has this happened before? And she's like, no, not in my experience. I think you're like the second girl maybe this has happened to ever. And I was like, of course. But honestly, I look back at it now, I'm grateful that it happened to me, because I feel like I handled the situation as well as I possibly could. I didn't yell at anyone. I didn't get, you know, I wasn't killing the messenger. I wasn't causing a scene, honestly, because I'm literally one of the most unconfrontational people ever. I just don't want to, you know, I knew it wasn't the girl's fault who was telling me this information, so why should I make her feel like super bad about it? A lot of girls were crying that day because some of the houses didn't invite them back that they wanted, but I literally got invited back to 0. But it wasn't my fault, you know, it literally had nothing to do with me, and it was just a complete error, just a fluke, honestly. She's like, we could go sit down, we could go talk about this. All the girls were like starting to go back to the houses they were invited back to. So she said we could go talk to the head of like fraternity and sorority people, and maybe they could tell you something more than I am, because I don't really understand this either. I later found out that the person that was supposed to tell me this was the leader of my group, not her. The other girl that was supposed to tell me this was way too scared, and that's why she was avoiding eye contact with me. So I'm really grateful for the girl that did tell me all this, because again, she was just very calming and very professional, and just, you know, very remorseful, I guess, for the whole situation. Wait till kind of all the girls leave to go back to the house, because I didn't want to be like, I didn't want these other girls that I don't know to see me crying. I hate crying in public. So I tried getting myself together, but I was just kind of like in disbelief and shock, because this whole time, like, I had envisioned myself, you know, being in a sorority and all these new friends. And I feel like when you envision something and you kind of have your whole mindset on this vision and it all just tumbles down at once, it's very overwhelming. Wait a little bit and we go out and we talk to the fraternity, like the head of everyone, and they kind of tell me the same thing, that this was just a fluke, this has nothing to do with you. You could wait till next year, or you could wait till, if any of the sororities, if they don't have enough people for their house, they might reach out to you. So it was very up in the air. So I was like, so those are some options still. I asked them, I was like, okay, so what do I do now? Should I just go back to my dorm? And they were like, yeah, you could just go back to your dorm, or you could wait here. I don't want to just sit here and sulk. You know, I'd rather do that in private in my dorm. So I walked again outside from that building to my dorm, a good walking distance away. I hope nobody that I know sees me right now, because I just looked a hot mess. Like, my mascara was just gross, and I was so hot and sad. Just like sitting there in my dorm, just kind of taking it all in, what just happened. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to tell this story to like my roommate, because she was doing the process with me. I remember getting lunch that day with my friend Alyssa. I was so grateful to have her there, because she knew me since like literally elementary school. I told her this story. At the end of the story, she's like, of course this would happen to you. It goes by, and I remember I get a message from one of the girls in a sorority there that messaged me, and she's like, hey, we would like to invite you to our meeting to like sign for our new member meeting, I guess. So at that point I was just like, it had already been like a week. I think in the beginning I said this was a 2-week process. I think it usually is a 2-week process, but this year it was a 1-week process. So yes, it was. I'm sorry, I messed that up in the beginning, but this was like a week later. One messaged me, and they were like, at this point, like I said, I had already kind of accepted that I wasn't going to be in a sorority. I took the news pretty well in my eyes. I mean, there's nothing I can do. Like, it was totally out of my control. There was nothing. I wasn't gonna call my dad and tell him to like argue with the school. I'm just not that kind of person. Things like this happen sometimes, and you just have to deal with it. And that's what I was doing. I was just centering my attention on something else, like her campus club that I was a part of, which is a writing club at the school, and I was trying to get into that. And I remember sending in my application in like a sample article to see if they would like it. I remember getting in, like, they accepting me, and I joined that club. So I was really excited about that. When I usually deal with these crazy situations, I try not to dwell on it. And at this point, like I said, I had already kind of dealt with what has happened. Still had this like lingering hope maybe I'll get a message or like something like this will happen. At that moment, I kind of had to decide if I wanted to go to a new member meeting, and I didn't really know what that entailed. I didn't know if that initially meant that I was a part of their sorority. It's just like, okay, why not? I'll go to the meeting, because I just didn't have many options at that point. I could have just like politely declined and accepted not being in a sorority, or waited to join the new sorority that was coming on campus. I decided to bite the bullets and go the next day, and I go, and I didn't really know what to think. I knew that we had to wear like all white, and I was very nervous. I had not gone through a process. I was not getting invited back. I was not invited to this sorority from the orthodox way of deciding. I was just happy that I was getting this opportunity to kind of join a sorority and set out what I initially wanted to do. So I go to the meeting, and again, I was just not in the same situation as everyone else. No one really knew what I had gone through. I did not know any of the girls in that sorority, besides like maybe seeing some familiar faces just from the welcome rounds. But so all of a sudden, like, they're talking, and like we start signing contracts, and I'm like, oh my god, this is real. Like, this is actually happening. And it was like, for me, I just kind of took it day by day. The girl that messaged me from the sorority, the girl that initially had to deliver me the bad news was her sorority that I got invited back to. And I was just so grateful that she, you know, did that for me. Like, she did not have to do that. You know, it's like, again, it's like this whole process of joining. You're in this new kind of atmosphere and situation, and it was just like a roller coaster of emotions that entire week. So now this is why I ended up dropping out of sorority. I go from, oh, I'm gonna be in a sorority, oh wait, no I'm not, okay, I'm in a sorority, and now I have to drop. Like I said in the beginning, this has nothing to do with the girls. Evidently it came down to money, and that I just couldn't afford it on my own. Couldn't justify spending the amount of money that was required to be in a sorority. And I knew from the beginning that my dad would not be helping me at all, because he told me, he's like, I support you, but I just don't have the means to financially support you. And that's kind of why I got a job, and I kept telling myself, if I work hard, like I worked a lot of hours at my job that first semester. I was in 3rd place for like the most hours worked a semester, so that was pretty cool. I didn't drop until like right before winter break of first semester, because I honestly just was holding out. Something I thought about every single day, and something that stressed me out every single day, you know? How am I gonna afford this? How am I gonna afford that? Like, well, I need to get an apartment junior year. I wanna study abroad. I wanna like put my money just not towards one thing. It just seemed like all the money that I was making was going towards this one part of my life that didn't have any kind of guarantee of being beneficial to me long term. I think sororities are great for the means of like getting involved and making friends, but it's not the only way to get involved and make friends, and there are a lot of cheaper other options out there. What I noticed being in a sorority was that the only way to kind of really get to know the girls was to kind of, well, not the only way, I don't want to say that. It wasn't the only way, but a big kind of social aspect of being in a sorority was the partying. And I am not a partier, and I never felt pressured by anyone to do anything I didn't want to, but I did always feel guilty because I'm like, these people are never gonna invite me anywhere, because I just I would always like make up excuses not to go to parties. And I did go, I did go sometimes. It's just not something I could do every weekend, because honestly, when you're the only sober person at a party, you just feel like a fish out of water. It's not fun every weekend. I do like to dance, I do like to sing, and I do like to be around a lot of people. But I also really enjoy being around a close group of people more times than being around a big random group of people that I'm not really close with. I always enjoy more intimate, like going to breakfast, going to dinner, like those kind of environments a lot more. At the end of the day, I couldn't justify spending the amount of money to be in a sorority, and it was a hard decision, but I kept telling myself, I can do it, I can do it. And then I just remember one day sitting in the library, and I was just like, I was reading articles like why I dropped out of my sorority, like stuff like that, and it just clicked. I was like, okay, I'm dropping out. I remember messaging the president, and it was this whole process. I know for a fact that if I stayed in longer, I would have built closer bonds, but I just couldn't put in all that money. Like, I knew this was like an investment, but I just couldn't. It was a big risk, and I just couldn't see the long-term, you know, benefits from it. It came down to like the cons were overweighing the pros, and it was just way too much money at the end of the day. So I remember dropping out, and I dropped out right before winter break. It was kind of strategic because it kind of gave me a month away back at home to not really think about it. And then I remember going back, a little awkward, you know, none of the girls really knew I dropped. I didn't make any really close bonds first semester with any of the girls. I got to know like 2 other girls pretty well, like not that well, but 2 girls kind of like stood out in my eyes. Well, I guess 3 that were friendly to me after all this, and this one girl still like would always say hi to me, and I really appreciated that, because a lot of girls would just avoid to make eye contact with me. That thing, like when you drop out of sorority, you become the girl that, oh, she dropped. I could deal with the minuscule awkwardness, the minuscule problems that be faced for making this decision versus putting in all of the money that I was. And you could tell like it was a lot of money just first semester, and I was like, this is gonna be like payments for like 4 years. It's not possible. Like, this money's not gonna come out of the sky. From being in a sorority, I think you really need to know if you are not gonna have any other financial help. It's important to realize that it is a lot of money, and I think everyone knows this going into it, but you don't really know it until like you get the bill and you're like, first payment was just like so hard for me to do. If you have, you know, parents help, and if your parents are supporting you, please don't take it for granted because they don't have to do it. It's not a necessity to be in a sorority, it's a privilege. Same thing with having a car is not a necessity, it's a privilege. Like my mindset, like it's not something I had to do to like have a fulfilling college experience, because I made a lot of friends in a lot of other areas. You know, working at my job, I made a lot of friends. I think looking back, looking at that whole recruitment process and how, you know, everything happened to me, how there was this huge fluke that this has never happened to anyone else before, maybe one other person, they said. I think that was just a big sign from like the universe or God telling me, maybe this isn't for you, Vanessa. Maybe this is a sign that you can't afford this on your own and to save all the money. Like I don't regret joining it at all because I learned a lot and I got insight to what it was like being in a sorority. But that was my sorority experience, sorority recruitment process. I just always wanted to tell this story. Thank you guys for watching this video, and good luck to any of you who are rushing this year. And I hope you have a great sorority experience, and if you ever feel like you want to drop, don't be like afraid to do it. You just got to do what's best for you at the end of the day. And when I dropped, the reason I knew it was a good decision for me is because I just felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders and I could just kind of go my everyday life not having this overwhelming like weight on my shoulders, like of the financial stress it brought me, on top of all like the other stress of being in college. But thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, thought it was entertaining, give it a thumbs up, and with that said, I'll talk to you guys in my next video.